Okay, welcome to lesson 1.4 on polygons. A polygon, well, it's what a pirate says when he loses his parrot. Polygon, polygon, polygon. Polygon is a closed figure in a plane formed by connecting line segments, endpoint to endpoint, with each segment intersecting exactly two others, and each line segment is called a side, and each endpoint where the sides meet is called a vertex. Vertex. And then these are sides. You classify a polygon by the number of sides it has, and familiar polygons have specific names listed in the table, such as triangle, quadrilateral, hexagon, octagon, decagon, decadon, and n-gon. So if you have a 25-side polygon, it's a 25-gon. Any vertices, angles, or sides that are next to each other are called consecutive. A diagonal of a polygon is a line segment that connects two non-consecutive vertices. And we use diagonals to determine if a polygon is concave or convex. So a polygon is concave if no diagonal is outside the polygon. A polygon is concave if at least one diagonal is outside the polygon. Okay. To name a polygon, list its vertices in consecutive order. For example, you could name the pentagon below ABCDE, or the other way, EDCBA, or start with B and go BCDEA, or any other consecutive order. And when a polygon is a triangle, you use the triangle symbol. For example, triangle ABC means triangle ABC. If I say that polygons are congruent, that means that the sides and the angles are writing letters to each other, that they're corresponding to each other. Their corresponding sides and angles are congruent. So if polygons are congruent, the corresponding sides and the corresponding angles are writing letters of congruency, or they're congruent. So, or if the corresponding sides and angles are congruent, then the polygons are congruent. And I'll show you what I mean. Here we have two congruent polygons, camp and site. Notice that with this, that C is congruent to S because they're both marked with one slash. A is congruent to I, M to T, and P to E. Also notice that line segment CA is marked congruent to SI with one dash, and AM to IT with two dashes, and MP to TE with three dashes, and PC to ES with four dashes. So because all of the corresponding angles and corresponding sides are marked congruent, these quadrilaterals are congruent. Or vice versa, because these are congruent, all of the corresponding sides and angles are congruent. So let's fill this in. If quadrilateral CAMP is congruent to quadrilateral SITE, then the four pairs of corresponding sides and four pairs of corresponding angles that write letters to each other, are also congruent. When you write a statement of congruence, always write letters of the corresponding vertices in an order that shows the correspondence. So, for example, if I say CAMP, I'm going to say SITE. not TISE, so that C and S are corresponding angles, so they're in the same location. And A and I are corresponding, M and P, M and T are corresponding, and P and E are corresponding. Okay, let's go ahead and do some practice. Here we have our polygon. Which one is it congruent to? 1, 2, or 3? And then make sure you write it out in the correct order. Let's start with the angles. Angle A looks like it's marked congruent to J, check, N, check, and S. So check. Let's go on to B. So B looks like it would correspond to K, and then it would correspond to P, and W and T, while they look congruent, they are not marked congruent, and so it is not going to be number 3. So we're down to 1 and 2. Let's look at C and D. They look like they correspond to F and G and L and Q. They're both marked as a right angle or 90 degrees with that box. So looks like the angles are all marked congruent, so we're good. Let's move on to the sides. How about the 1 dashes, AE and AB? Does it correspond to JK? Yes. About JH? JH is 2 dashes, and this is 1 dash, and so they're not marked congruent, so it's not going to be 1. It instead is going to be 2, and so we know it's that one. Let's go ahead and make sure we write the order incorrectly. So A corresponds to angle N, and then P would correspond to angle B, and at that point, pardon me, B in ABCDE would correspond to angle P, and then we'll just keep going. NPQLM, and that works. There we go. Now, because of symmetry, could you also go NMLQP in this case? You could, but that's just in this case. Okay. Let's go over some new words. If I say a polygon is equiangular, it means it's a polygon with all congruent angles, kind of like it sounds. So you can kind of do the geometry thing in this case. An equilateral polygon is a polygon with all congruent sides. All congruent sides. A regular polygon is a polygon that is both equilateral and equiangular. So it has all equal sides and all equal angles. And as a review, the perimeter of a polygon equals the sum of the lengths of its sides, which means that this figure has a perimeter of 37 because 15 plus 5 plus 12 plus 5 is 37. So as an example, if the perimeter of the quadrilateral is 20, find x. Okay, so 20 is going to equal all of the sides added together. And this is marked congruent here, so that's also going to be 3x. Let's go ahead and combine like terms. So x, 3x, and 3x is 7x, and 2 plus 4 is 6, and subtract 6 from both sides. 14 is 7x. Divide both sides by 2, and x is equal to 2. And closing question. What's wrong with this picture of equilateral pentagon ABCDE? Well, look at this pentagon. It is marked equiangular. So it is marked equiangular. Not equilateral. If it was marked equilateral, then it would have dashes here showing that all of the sides are the same. And besides that, it doesn't even look anywhere close to being equilateral anyway. What else is wrong with it? Anything else? Well, look at the order here. A, B, C, D, E. A, B, E, D, C. The letters are in the, well, let's just say are in non-consecutive order. So for example, what this should say is A, B, C, D, E. So those two things are wrong. Okay. Well, that concludes lesson 4 on polygons. Thankfully, the pirate did find his parrot. So Polly is no longer gone. And that concludes today's lesson. Polygons. Remember, the vocabulary that's important to know is vertex and side of a polygon, knowing the names like hexagon, heptagon, nonagon, what a diagonal is, convex versus concave polygons. So when you're naming a polygon, to make sure the vertices are in consecutive order, and the triangle symbol is used for triangle instead of writing the word triangle, and that corresponding sides and angles of polygons, if they're congruent, then the polygons are congruent. So right here, this is going to be very, very important. Come back to that a lot. All right, well, that's it. Have a lovely day, and remember that without geometry, life is pointless. Have a good day.